if you've been looking on the channel, you've seen that I've got quite a few cameras. Unfortunately, there's a few more we're going to go through, but I thought I'd sort of do something a little bit different. I'm going to do a series of short films on film, and this is the introductory sort of video. Basically, those cameras I've got, and all film cameras, are nothing without film. They're just very attractive pieces of metal that sit on your shelf. Now, obviously we've had the digital revolution. Film production's gone down enormously. So we're left with sort of a lot less choices than we used to have in the past. Now, just to outline, there's a couple of types of film, obviously. There's black and white, there's colour, there's slide, and motion picture film that you can shoot on 35mm. Now, there seems to be some massive issue with standard film. So the cheapest chips, like Colour Plus 200, is now sort of £10 a roll, and it's crazy. So I mean, it's sort of a big economic decision that you make when you shoot film, and you sort of have to research it. You have to seek it down and hunt the cheapest possible stocks you can get, the most effective way to shoot. Now, I'll just start right at the beginning. The cheapest possible way you can shoot, if you don't develop at home at the moment, is this. Is that going to go into focus? I always have promised my focus. I'll put that there. There you go. Ilford XP2 400. Why is this the cheapest option? You can pick this stuff up for, I don't know, £7 a roll, and it's chromogenic film, which means that it basically can be developed in a standard C41 process. So you don't have the expense of black and white development. If you had it in black and white development in a lab, it's more expensive than C41 because it can go in the machine. And you can get this developed. It's I'll go through it properly, but that's fundamentally your cheapest option if you don't develop at home. Obviously, if you are developing at home, you can do all sorts of things, and it's a lot more effective. But what I'm going to deal with, someone who's starting out film, someone who's giving it a lab and getting it developed. Now, most of our generic stocks that we've been using, Fuji and all this stuff, the prices have just gone bananas with them. So, you have to look elsewhere, and you have to look at other things. And I think it's quite bizarre how the whole industry has gone quite circular. Right at the beginning, the reason we shoot on 35mm film is Oscar Barnack, years and years ago, 1849 or something, realised that motion picture stock was cheaper than the stuff that they were using for photography. So he put it into his camera, created a camera to shoot it, a Leica, and we got 35mm film. It's much cheaper, but nowadays, it's standard 35mm stock is expensive. So now we're starting to put motion picture film back into cameras again because it is cheaper again. I think a 1,000-foot roll of 500 Kodak 500T cinema film, it's about 200 quid, and you can get a lot of rolls out of that. The problem with shooting motion picture film is it has a anti-halation and anti-static layer over it called Remjet, and Remjet protects the halation is that glowy edge you see on highlights in pictures, but the Remjet layer protects it as it flies through a camera at high speed. So you have to strip that off, which is a difficult strip that off and then develop it. And the process for developing motion picture stock is called EC2N, and not many labs used to do it. Now a lot more labs are doing it now, which is great. So you do have an alternative to buying Pultra 400 and being fleeced and then getting it developed. You can buy motion picture stock, and some labs will now develop it for you, EC2N. There are kits to do it at home where you can strip off the Remjet, but motion picture stock is like making a big resurgence because I think it's problematic for Kodak to push up the prices of motion picture stock because we've still got some very serious filmmakers shooting on that stuff. So you've got motion picture stock, you've got all your black and whites. Black and whites aren't as expensive to buy by miles. You've got some great black and whites out there, but the development process costs a bit more if you you'd be doing a lab. If you do it at home, it's a lot cheaper. And then we've got all our generic, Portra, Kodak Gold, which isn't the greatest film on the planet, I don't think, but it's just going for crazy money now. And then you've got slide. There's very little slide left. I think Fuji still make a bit. But yeah, so it's a very much changed world with film now. We used to have tons of it. We could do what we wanted. It was cheap, really cheap. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go through different stocks and show you 5 or 6 frames from what I shoot with my cameras. And you look at my terrible photography, and then we can have a look at what these films do. I would never say one film's better than another. It's like saying blue's better than red. All films are different. And obviously, the other big dependent factor with film is what lens you shoot it through, because that gives you different color renditions. But there are some amazing stock out there. There's some new stock that's come out of nowhere. And there's some great places online where you can buy all these sort of different and interesting stocks to shoot, which is great. So that's the plan. We'll go through different stocks and we'll have a look at what they do. I'll try and be as even as possible. I'll try and shoot it through a modern film camera that's got a good exposure, and it's not crazy, because the older cameras, light meters aren't quite as accurate sometimes to do tests with. Anyway, so stick with it, and we'll go through some film stocks. Thanks for watching.